Okay, short video. I'm going to review the tools from the first round. I'm going to do another round on another elk leg. I should be able to do it better and faster on the second time around. And I've got deer legs also, but I chose the elk leg because it's a little bit tougher. The hide is a little bit tougher. I wanted to see if this would work. The deer leg skin is seems to be more tightly attached to the deer leg, so I'll do one of those as well on video, but not today. Anyway, this is a review. Now, this knife worked very well, but I could tell it was getting duller, or something was happening, and maybe it was just getting gummed up with membrane, because it still feels sharp. But I do see some dings from touching bone, so I'm gonna do a little touch up around the edges on this. All right, and you can see there's still some flesh on here. I'm gonna wipe that off. Now, back in the day, they probably just made sure they were set up near a water source, and they would just wash these knives and these blades in the water source, like a stream or whatever. It's very important to have water when you're butchering, so you can both clean off the meat and clean off your tools. And it's a good idea probably to put the glue over the top of everything. Like, even if there was wrapping on here, it's probably better to put the glue over the wrapping. That way you can just dunk the whole thing in water and wash it like a regular modern knife without worrying about softening the sinew wrapping. Now, some might say, well, you can just use animal fat or some kind of plant wax or resin over the sinew to waterproof it. But I've tried that before and it doesn't work. The only thing that seems to work is the hot melt, either pitch or asphaltum, over the top of the wrappings. It has to be a hot melt so it doesn't dissolve in water, and the water can't permeate it. Like if you smear tallow or something like that over the sinew, water still permeates in, and it'll soften up the sinew. It's not a completely good seal against moisture, the tallow or the fat, or a water soluble sap is not a good seal against moisture either, because obviously it's water soluble. It'll come off, especially if you end up wiping it. Like if you have a piece of leather, tan leather, you can soak it in water and use it as a rag to wipe things off, like a chamois, you know. Anyway, and I'm starting to see why they would want a smooth surface with no step fractures, because it's easy to wipe off. The only problems that I'm having wiping it off is right where the step fractures are. Got to get in there and get all that out. You don't want bacteria breeding on your tools. Like right here, there's a step fracture right there, and there's a little bit of membrane in there, and it's hard to get out. Or maybe there's some tendon or something in there. Now the tendon is the same thing as sinew. I use those two words interchangeably, and I say sinew instead of sinew. I have a strange accent. So, but yeah, the step fractures, they catch. I don't know if you could see, but it catches debris. So maybe that is one reason why they were very particular about not getting step fractures on the high quality blades. On the regular blades and points that were used for projectiles, it doesn't matter too much. But I think on these knives for skinning and fleshing out and cutting up the meat, it's important to have smooth surfaces so you can clean them off. Another thing is, if you have dogs, they will be able to smell if your knife blades are not clean. They'll get into them and they'll try to see if there's anything to eat in your bag of tools, because they'll smell the the residue. I've had one of my dogs. It was not Kevin, but one of my dogs once got into my stuff and got one of the knives that I had wrapped with sinew and perfectly peeled the sinew off and chewed up some of the wood. I left the point there, but he was very good at taking the sinew off. So that might be another reason why you cover it all with glue. Anyway. Alright, so I use these tools. This is a new one that I just napped last night. This is a base tang I'm going to be using on the next elk leg. I napped this last night. I tried to get it as thin as possible. I was having a little bit of trouble cleaning up this side. I got a bunch of step fractures on that side, but the side A is okay. Alright, so the tools that I used up here, these are the ones I did not like, and these are the ones that I did like. Okay, so the ones that I did like have points, and also this very thin, very, very sharp cutting edge. I like this one because I was able to cut through tendon extremely well. And I like these because it got into the areas that were hard to reach. Now this one is napped. It was duller than this, which is a natural edge from the original flake. This one was my favorite. And then this one, see, natural edges are the sharpest, and then this one with the napped edge. I think I'm going to nap both sides this time. I left it dull here in case I wanted to put my finger there, but it seems like I don't need to. I just grab it down here and then sharpen the tip. The whole tip, both sides. And hopefully it'll work just as well as this one. Okay. But yeah, I noticed that it was getting visibly, or I could feel that it was getting duller. Maybe not visibly, but I could feel that these were getting duller, either from goo that was getting on the edge or actually the edge degrading. You can see how the edge is degrading on this, but I was also hitting bone. So that's it wasn't from the cutting of the flesh. It was probably the hitting of the bone that caused this degrading of the edge there. It's not very sharp right there. It's sharp down here, but not there. So I'll do a little retouching on this. Now the cortex, you can see that there's blood stuck in the cortex here. So I don't know if I'll be able to get that out. So it's probably not a good idea to have cortex on these. But who knows? The Kerrville knives and stuff have cortex on them. And I imagine they were used for butchering. But it's harder to wipe the junk off the cortex than wiping it off the stone itself, the inside. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of slime or something surrounding the membrane, so it gets on everything. And it was hard to hold on to the tool sometimes. As the leg was drying out, as I was cutting it, it got easier to hold everything. So maybe in the future I'll dry the legs more, dry them out a little bit more before I start working on them. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah. All right, so these here I did not like. I didn't use this one at all because it really doesn't get into where I needed to cut. This is probably better for wood, this type of flake. This, again, it didn't get into the areas that I needed. It's not pointy enough. So these two, they did cut well, but they were only good for sawing motion. And not really to get into the hard to reach areas or to separate the membrane from the tendon in in a kind of a precise way. See, these edges are a little wonky. This allows you to get into a tight spot or to slice very precisely when you have a sharp tip. Now, maybe I didn't use enough flakes. I didn't have enough available to do all the jobs that I was doing, or if one flake gets dull, I just pick up another one. But I don't think it is a good idea to just bring a whole lot of flakes with you. You should be able to do it with just a few flakes. Besides, if you use like 20 flakes for every part of the animal, I mean, you're going to use up all of your debitage too fast. And you're going to have to carry a whole big bag of flakes to do the whole elk. Can you imagine? Just on one leg, one half of one leg, I've already dulled 4 flakes. Can you imagine doing the entire elk? You'd have to have a whole bag of flakes, which I don't think is reasonable. You should be able to do it with a few tools, the whole thing, the whole animal from head to toe. So yeah, that means resharpening or retouching some of these blades. I'm going to make two more blades. One is going to be a Arrowhead type knife that's got, it looks like a diamond shape from the face, and it's got beveled edges. Okay, I'll make one of those, and I'll also make a more conventional looking blade like this, but it won't be bifacially sharpened, it'll be beveled as well. So I'm going to make 2 more beveled blades. One is a Arrowhead, one is just a generic leaf-shaped beveled edged blade. And I might make another one, like one from a big blade, I mean, that is a flake blade with just a little bit of retouch, longer than this, if I have enough room on some of these pieces of Georgetown. Like, I still got chunky pieces of Georgetown I can strike off big blades from, hopefully. Okay, so that's it. Just a short review of the tools. These were my favorite, and they ended up having either a sharp point or a very thin cutting edge. And I'm not going to use this type. I'm not going to use these types of flakes, because this edge is a natural edge, but it didn't cut as well as the extremely thin natural edge. Yeah. So I'll keep these for the next leg that I do, and I'll save these for something else, making arrowheads or something. Now, these can be used as hide scrapers, but I'll get into hide scraping on a different video, but they'll look different than this. The hide scrapers are going to be different than these. I know that there are side scrapers in the archaeological record, but I have no idea what they're used for. If I were to use something like this, it would be for a saw, and mainly for maybe cutting vegetables or wood, right? I'd use it for processing plant fiber or plant material. Yeah, these kind of things, not for butchering. All right, so I'll put these aside. And personally, I don't like using this type for butchering. Okay. All right, so that's it. I am going to make another knife with a handle, but it's going to be a thicker handle, not tapered like this. All right. Okay, that's it.